Today, we're going to be exploring everything related to SEO. Is it still relevant today? How should it be used? When should it be used? Where does AI fit in to all of this? We're going to be going into a deep dive talking about SEO and discussing it with a special guest, Jonathan Cheek, who's going to tell us all about it. You'll want to stay tuned for this episode. I'm Steve Reed, and this is Brand or Die. Hey, special thanks to Jonathan Cheek for coming on Brand or Die. And we're going to be talking a lot about SEO today and answering some questions and demystifying this subject for a lot of you entrepreneurs and business owners out there. So to start off, I'd like to give Jonathan an opportunity to tell us a little bit about himself. We'll go from there.
Thanks for having me on today. I've been in the SEO game for about 8 years. I've worked in almost the full gamut of stuff. I've worked with lawyers, I've worked with real estate agents, I've worked with large enterprise companies, travel brands like Travelocity, Orbitz, CubeSmart, big storage companies. I've worked with men's fashion brands like True Classic. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the gamut of SEO in terms of driving, their organic businesses, that's kind of where I come from. And I've worked for numerous agencies. I've worked in-house, and so I've been able to kind of see how many different types of people, many different types of businesses operate, and seeing, what are going to be the best strategies and tactics that really kind of take things to the next level for these clients.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We've had some really great discussions about SEO in the past and even this morning. And I think what I see from my end is with a lot of the clients that I work with, there's varying degrees of understanding of what SEO is. Most people have no idea how it works. They just feel that it's something they either really want to have or that in the back of their mind, they think they should probably be doing it, but they don't really feel the impact of it, whether it's there or not. It's kind of this mysterious force that exists out there. And it's hard. Yeah. It's because it's not as tangible in some respects as design, development, like some of these other things, marketing, advertising. You could see the fruits immediately. SEO sometimes takes time. And also, it is tangible in that you see that traffic go up, you see those leads come in, but I think there's a lack of faith or something you could say there. It's kind of hard to step into it, Oh yeah. That's a good way to put it too. Go ahead and speak to that.
We are like the redheaded stepchild of marketing, because you're absolutely right. A lot of the stuff that we do takes a long time. It's not this immediate dopamine hit.
When you say long, like what do you mean by long?
Depending on the client and the competition, your efforts could take 6 months to start seeing momentum, and obviously how much your budget, what you throw at it. But like, especially in like super high competitive places, we don't really start to see the needle move until like maybe 3 months.
Yeah.
And that depends on a whole bunch of different factors that could get really nerdy really quick. So I'm not going to go straight into it, but to really kind of see your ROI, it's going to take a while. So what I like to say about SEO is that it's the best time to get investing in SEO is the same time it is for your 401k yesterday.
Right.
And the next best time is today. Because the thing is with SEO is what you're really doing is it takes a while, but what happens is you build a momentum flywheel that gets bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. Typically, the clients that I help, they usually have around a 40% increase year over year in terms of their online traffic. Now, obviously, depending on other factors that the industry you're in and all that other stuff. That's your conversion rates and all that, but that's a significant impact to your bottom line.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I remember you were explaining the other day, you had this kind of chart and you were showing the impact of social ads and social content and posting. And as soon as you stop, I mean, it basically drops off, but SEO just continues to build it. It almost has a kind of a compounding effect over time. I like your comparison to a 401k.
It's like a flywheel.
Mm.
So you're putting energy into it, but like as you get past the inertia, it keeps spinning and spinning and spinning.
Mm.
That's to say, like, you can't fully turn it off, but if you took your foot off the gas for, you could still see results, going for, half a year, month, to a year.
Mm.
If you did a really, really good job building it up and then turning things off, or just not stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You could still see that. And the reason why I know that is because I worked for a company called OPT, and what they did is they sold, telescopes.
Mm.
It was like telescopes for like kids all the way up to NASA engineers, everywhere in between. It was really interesting. They went out of business and they were bought out by another company. Ironically, the company that bought them had no idea what they were doing with SEO. But what was ironic is, since they didn't do that, to this day, the old website is still up. And it's still ranking on page 1 for queries that I tried to target, 7 years ago. Nobody's updated it. The products are out of date, but like there's still things that are there where they're showing up. So yeah.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
So when you talk about it taking a long time, what are the factors that go into this kind of length of time? Is it the amount of work that needs to be done on the SEO side? Is it the search engines, indexing the site, the competition? What would you say are the main factors?
It's a few things. The way that things work is that Google, first and foremost, we have the limitations of Google. Mm-hmm. We have the limitations of ourselves. And we have the limitations of our budget. The biggest bottleneck is going to be the limitations of Google. Google crawls billions of websites all the time. They're doing it every second, every minute of the day. There's not enough computers to just instantly do that. That being said, there are more websites that are just absolute garbage. There's that people either use to like maybe scam sites or, link farms and all this other kind of shady stuff that is also eating up the data that Google's trying to kind of sift through in terms of delivering quality sites to searchers. Depending on how big your site is, that can really impact how long it takes Google to notice a change on your website. Another thing is a really big ranking signal is backlinks. Backlinks in Google's eyes are basically votes of confidence of other websites to your website.
Cool.
And if the website that you get a backlink from is high quality, obviously that's going to be really good. But the thing is, we run into the same issue with those votes of confidence. It may take a while for Google to notice the backlink to your website from another website. That you can't even control. Ideally, if you get them, that's really good. But you just got to wait for Google to slosh through the internet and find those links, and that will help boost you up. The other thing is the scale of which you need to build web pages. That depends on the manpower you need. So if you need to build, 100,000 pages, doing it programmatically, that might take a few engineers. If you have a brochure website, that might, that's going to probably be a slower cadence. But you could get the whole project done faster because you have less pages to create. And the last constraint is your budget. So all of this costs money. If you want to move faster, let's say you wanted to pay for link building and you want to hire as many, developers and, and content writers and all that other stuff to kind of move the needle as fast as possible. Yeah, you can do that. And you can get it really good on ROI. But if it's not in your budget, you can scale down. You can have a slower cadence and you would still be putting into it.
in my experience, it seems like most businesses, no matter how large or small, should be able to carve out some budget for SEO. I mean, a lot of times I think people get scared when people start talking about budget sometimes, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be this other thing. But I think a lot of it depends on how your business generates quality leads as well, right? And
Yes.
because it may very well be that a business has a website and it's not really important to them generating leads. There's another path they use to get leads that's really effective. And the SEO is important too. Like it can help the whole thing. And it's something that really probably everyone should be doing, but it does seem to impact some businesses more than others. What would you say would be the types of businesses that can benefit the most from SEO, and maybe some of the businesses that tend to benefit the least? Can you speak to any of that?
It depends on what your goals are.
Mm-hmm.
So if your goal is to build a website that people scroll and you make money through, display ads on the side and all that other stuff, that model is getting harder and harder to work with. And a lot of that is coming up with the issues of what we call zero-click searches. Zero-click searches are when you go onto Google and Google gives you an AI overview, or it gives you a featured snippet that kind of answers the informational question that you're looking for.
Right.
So when your website is, reliant on people to coming to you so that you can play ads on the side, less and less and less is going away with that every day, especially with like ChatGPT and stuff. They've now gotten into like 1% of the market, which you were like, oh, that's kind of small, but no, that's actually a pretty significant impact given the monopoly that Google has. So yeah, if that's your business model, that's going to be tougher and tougher. And I feel for you, man. If you're any kind of other business where you're trying to get leads or you're trying to sell products, that's going to be where SEO can help you a lot. To explain this, SEOs kind of break down searches into multiple categories. We have what we call informational searches, which is like, hey, what's the answer to this question? Then we have commercial searches, which is, I'm considering buying a car, I'm considering buying this refrigerator. I'm going to do a little bit more comparison as to which two models I'm going to get, or which service providers I'm going to get. Then there's transactional. I'm ready to buy the newest F-150, so I'm just going to go find the dealer near me and then schedule a meeting. And then you have which is called navigational searches, and that's kind of like, where is the salesman's page on the F-150 site? So you're trying to find a certain page in a there. And then we also have a few others where it's like, oh, it's a branded search or it's a local intent search, but they don't have the same kind of evaluative impact. Informational searches 5 years ago were a big strategy on the internet. We did not have ChatGPT. We didn't have answer engines. We didn't have things that could do this. So we still had to go through websites and read the websites to get that stuff. Now that's just going all away. And it's also been eroded against for a long time, because obviously if you go to Google now, paid ads are at the top. Usually, first and foremost, they put more ads now than they have ever. They're giving AI overviews. It's not until you get past, you scroll down halfway to the site where you see the first SEO listing. And so this is kind of an ongoing problem with, particularly with informational queries. What really we're doing, what we can do really well, is target those people who have that commercial or transactional intent. Because the thing is, that's not always based on an answer.
Yeah.
That's based off on a product or a service. And yeah, maybe ChatGPT or something can give an overview of your service. It can't get into the nitty-gritty details. At the end of the day, somebody's going to have to come to your site to get your business. That's where SEO should be really, really focusing. And to be honest, that's where you should always start your strategy. You always want to build up the things that are going to create the most money.
I've heard that from some people. Some people are concerned that ChatGPT, some of these AI models are going to make search engines obsolete and perhaps even SEO obsolete. Like, oh, I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll just search it and it'll tell me everything I want to know. I think some of that stems from a lack of understanding of how these systems actually operate. But let's say somebody came to you and said, well, I don't know why I would need to work on SEO because I'll just ask ChatGPT and it will help me find whatever I need. And that's how people may find my business in the future. Can you talk a little bit about this impact that AI is making in this space and where that puts SEO in general as a subject? Is it less important? Is it more important? Is it about the same? What do you think?
The one thing that I would like to point out is that you need to understand a little bit of how ChatGPT works. ChatGPT is a calculator that references, numbers that reference, fragments of words, and then it looks at the probability of what goes together and, all that. And when you're doing a probabilistic output of words, one, you have an issue of accuracy, especially with the AI overviews with Google. There was somebody asking about how to bake a pizza, and then the answer Google gave was it referenced an Onion article, and it said you want to put Elmer's white glue on the on that. So if it's going off with bad sources, and that could be an issue. Another thing is too there's what is called hallucination. It gives you an answer that sounds good, but that's not correct. With everything that is being put out there on the internet and what is being built on the internet, ChatGPT has a learning cycle. To have that put into its database, all this data needs to be then gathered, and then it needs to be trained on that. That's going to take months, and that's going to cost almost $1 billion in compute processing. And then by that time, the new model comes out, and that might be in there. Then lastly, for the things that ChatGPT can't keep up with is that they're still relying on search engines. Bing is OpenAI's biggest search provider, followed by Google. If you're not using a search engine, it's highly likely your AI chatbot is. And also, at the end of the day, you can't buy stuff. You can't get the full details of somebody's service or what it's going through until you get to their website. Now they do have a little citation and stuff like that, which is really good, but what are the odds? I mean, what's the behavior for most people when it comes to ChatGPT? They don't leave ChatGPT. At the end of the day, it's really good for brand awareness, and we should be thinking about getting our businesses into the training models, into being what's referenced. But, when it comes to the searches, you still got to think about SEO.
Yeah. So it seems like, wherever this technology leads, the best strategy now and likely for at least the near future is we still need to be implementing the SEO strategies we're doing now, because it's all about taking practical steps to increase the visibility and the credibility of your website online. We know that there's certain things that are looked for. Obviously, if your site is being linked to by other websites, especially reputable websites, that increases the validity of the content that you're posting and your authority in a particular space, but also just simply making yourself as visible as possible. And there's a lot of people that don't understand what goes into doing that. Like, I've been told, you got like your on-site SEO, your technical SEO. There's the copy that's written. The copy needs to be written in a certain way. You have to make sure that certain keywords and phrases are embedded in the alt tags, the H tags. Then there's offsite stuff that needs to be done, creating those backlinks, writing blog posts, all that. But all of that, it's not about just simply going and slapping a bunch of stuff on the website. You're like, oh, I want to rank for this phrase or this term, so I'm going to put it everywhere. I want to repeat it like 1,000,000 times. Well, if you repeat a word too much, it could be detrimental. If you repeat it too little, it could be detrimental. But even way before that is knowing which words to target, right? You got to do research, and you got to find, if you're going to target terms, you're not necessarily going to want to go to terms where there's a ton of competition. You want to find kind of those those gaps in what your competition's going after, right? And try to find those key terms that people are searching for, but that nobody else is really going after. And then you can target those keywords and potentially start to rank faster than you would if you tried to compete in a really crowded space for really popular terms.
You need to diversify your rankings, especially if you launch a brand new website. Mm-hmm. What winds up happening is there's what they call a silo period, because there are very nefarious sites that are spinning up billions of pages a day for either trying to manipulate the Google algorithm, scam people, or they're trying to do other different weird, nefarious things. The thing is, when you put a new website on and then you send it to Google, Google is going to approach that with a certain level of caution. So yeah, if you have a brand new website, you're going to be in that kind of limbo period for a while. You still need to build pages. You still need to build links. And then once, they're like, all right, we'll try ranking you here for a little bit. They'll test it out for a time. If you get, clicks and engaged people, and they're like, okay, they didn't seem to harm anybody. Let's try it again. After a while, they go, okay, well then these guys are legit. And then you start to see that kind of growth.
So that brings up another question. Let's say you decide to start your own website and you're like, I'm just going to put stuff up there and I'm going to do some things that I think will help me out with SEO. I really want search engines to find for this term, and you start plastering it everywhere and doing things. Is there a real possibility that not knowing what you're doing or not having a strategy can actually cause negative effects with your site?
Yeah, there are. One thing that is kind of common is what we call is keyword cannibalization. So you might write several articles or have several pages that are slightly different, but they're very, very similar. And so what winds up happening is those two pages start competing with each other. And all of a sudden you put, when they compete, they're not really swimming in the competition. They're really kind of just drowning each other out. You can run into a lot of technical issues, if you're not sure. Like I had somebody build a whole website. When the developers launched their website, they have this thing on a page called index and no follow, right? So it was set to no index, no follow, which is a kind of a switch for a page to tell Google, don't put this on Google. It's really for when you're developing a new site and you don't want to launch it just yet. Well, the thing is, nobody switched that to, hey, Google, index this page, and I want you to follow all the links that come to it.
Yeah.
So they were going for like 3 months. I'm like, we're not getting anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, because you told Google not to. And then also, I've had several clients do this before where like, hey, I have this business and I want to have 3 different websites for my business. And I go, wait a minute, why do you want 3 businesses? Well, because we offer 3 different things. First and foremost, you're one brand. You're not 3 brands that offer 3 different services. Why would you want to dilute that brand across 3 sites and make it 3 times harder on yourself? You don't get any competitive advantage that way. You got to really kind of sometimes educate people like, oh, you've just tripled the work on yourself.
Yeah.
You've tripled the potential for problems.
It just like most things, when it comes to your brand, when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to anything that you're out there looking to do, it's really important to have a good strategy in place because it can pay off big dividends in the future. It's just like a recent video we did. We were talking about trademarks and how if you don't have the right strategy in place, the costs could be just backbreaking in the future. If somebody comes and decides to say, oh, you're infringing on our trademark, you got to change all this other stuff. You might have paid 15 grand for a sign. You might have bought all this swag for your company. You could have spent tens of thousands of dollars or more on all this stuff with your logo and your name on it that you then have to just trash and throw away. And it only costs like $2,500 to $5,000 to have a trademark attorney make sure you're in the clear. And that may seem like it's expensive up front, but it's way more expensive in the future if you trip up and make a mistake. And I think a lot of that plays into branding, marketing, and SEO particularly, right? Because you could lose so much momentum and potentially sabotage yourself in a lot of ways. Let's say you're writing blog posts all about the same topic all the time, and you get that cannibalization you talked about. And not having a strategy in place is not going to get you anywhere. How many people like accidentally happen to do SEO right and see big dividends from it? Like what are what are the stats on that?
There are real cases of people doing it.
Yeah.
So,
what would be some cases where that would happen? Maybe something goes viral page or something?
Yeah, there was a guy who got really into chocolate because, and he just...
Was his name Willy Wonka?
Yeah, no, I forget the guy's name. He originally came from I think a coffee scene where there's a lot of people who nerd out about coffee. And then he's like, well, why isn't anybody applying the same kind of mentality and framework onto chocolate? So he just started writing about all this other stuff. And then a few years later, he wound up buying an industrial grade amounts of chocolate so that people can mill it themselves. And then eventually he wound up starting a business of it, just from the people that found his little niche very, very interesting and fascinating. He got lucky. Do I think if he had a targeted strategy, would it gone a lot faster, better, smoother? Potentially. In my experiences, that's few and far between. A lot of times businesses are looking at, well, we need a website in the same way I need business cards. Yeah. Why do you need business cards? Because everybody else has them. Mm-hmm. That's oh, okay. If you're thinking that way, we gotta kind of revamp everything.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff that I think's been really educational and valuable. I'd like to give you the last word. Anything else we missed, or any big point that you would like to try to make?
I have a very, very unpopular opinion amongst SEOs. First and foremost, if you're starting a business, SEO should be a part of it, but it should not be the first thing you should do. It's really, really honing in your brand first. It's because there are real, tangible effects that a good brand has on SEO. One, it's going to increase the amount of searches for your business. Two, it's going to increase the click-through rates to your site. If people know your brand, they're going to go to you. If you are really, really starting off with a new business, what you should first do is start with branding, and then immediately look into the other direct marketing channels like SEO and seeing where that's going to fit into your strategy. In my opinion, for most businesses, it's going to be a really great long-term investment.
That's cool. And just to clarify, I did not pay you to say that. No, that was that was pretty unexpected to go that direction. But I mean, from my standpoint, I can totally see why that's the case. Because that's where my strength lies.
Well, also it makes my job easy
in doing that branding. Yeah, right. But it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, having that strong brand, because it's all about the way human beings are acting. I know there's technical things going on. There's algorithms and things, but those algorithms are looking at human behavior. They're looking at data and information. And so the human element is always going to be the key thing in here. As long as human beings are involved in the purchase process and making decisions, then the strength of that brand is going to impact that. It's going to influence their decisions, what they click on, like you said. And so that's a really great point. And I'm actually glad you went there and brought that up, because I think that's a really critical thing to consider. And it paints this overall picture that we do have this larger strategy at play that needs to be focused on to understand where we're going and what we're doing when we set out to do a business. Otherwise, we're going to trip over ourselves, and it's going to be years and years and years before we figure all these things out and then start putting them into place. And we're going to realize that we could have been so much further along had we just started everything at the beginning with the right strategy moving forward.
Start with your vision.
Yeah.
Like, what does your vision have to do with SEO? Well, yeah, it has everything to do with it. It has how we are going to approach your goal setting. It's going to address the KPIs we look at. Your brand is going to determine your tone of voice. That's going to determine how we write articles, how we determine headlines, how we design the layout to try to maximize click-through rates, engagement, user experience. All of that has a bearing on SEO.
Yeah.
All of it has a bearing on SEO. So yeah, your branding should be your North Star.
I think that's probably the first time I've heard an SEO person, go that way and really tie the brand into the SEO as a critical component. And so I like that. I think that's really important. So hopefully people found all this information helpful today. And I'd like to thank you very much for coming on and sharing your knowledge and insights. I think they've been hugely valuable. Thank you so much for coming on the show and taking your time. I'd like to offer special thanks to our guest, Jonathan Cheek, for coming in, talking to us about SEO today. I thought he shared a lot of really valuable information, and hopefully you guys took a lot of notes out there and have some ideas on what you want to do about your own SEO strategies and situations. Hey, I appreciate you joining us. And if you like this content, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ring the bell, hit the bell, punch the bell, whatever you want to do. And we'll see you again on the next episode of Brand or Die.